Yeah, so today we're talking about idea validation, specifically around water bottles.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have prepared my water bottle here.
I don't think that water
Just
bottle
for
ever
this
leaves
chat.
you. It never leaves the water bottle.
I never leave my water bottle.
Yes, it is your, what do you
It's
call it?
my
Your
safety
comfort,
blanket.
safety blanket situation. Yeah. So idea of validation. So we kind of have discussed a little bit about Reddit. Reddit's a really good one to utilize to get an overall picture and take people through that shift framework that we spoke about in the video. But also, there are other ways to validate your idea, right, outside of Reddit. So why don't we kind of very briefly talk about Reddit and then do a bit more of a deep dive in what are some of the other ways that you can actually validate your idea. Thoughts?
Of Reddit or
Yeah.
other ways?
Yeah, well,
I'm going to leave Reddit to you
Okay,
because
great.
you're like the master of Reddit.
Yeah, I spent quite a bit of time
You really have developed like a bond.
yeah, I won't go into too much, but I think the overall idea of Reddit is to spend, an hour or two. It can be quite a big rabbit hole, and I like to actually physically write down the words people use when we're talking about frustrations that they're having. I actually like to write down the words that they use when they're describing their frustrations. It allows you to then later on come up with copy to directly speak to those people. So it's a really good one to really get into the psychological intention and psychology and their mental state of the people who are having the problems that your product is trying to solve. So speaking of copy and other things or outside of Reddit, what are some of the other things that you've sort of done or recommended to validate ideas?
I mean, I think the one I think works best is launching and actually seeing and getting feedback from your client base. So,
launching like with an MVP.
With an MVP.
Yeah.
So, creating a prototype to the best of your ability. I think, we always use the term done is better than perfect. So getting a product to market is so important because you can validate for days and years to come. But really the real validation is going to come once you launch a product, get that MVP out there and see what people are saying about it so that you can really start perfecting it and getting the product to where it needs to be.
Yeah, at some point you can't get stuck in design land or validation world for too long.
Gosh, we have so many random terms here at Slyletica, don't we?
We do.
What is design land?
We've had people build products for 18 months. We've had people go back to the drawing board and go back and forth, for 2 years.
Yeah.
In fact, we've even got somebody who's inquired with us consistently for 6 years now. They are our longest standing lead but have still not launched anything because they're trying to refine their ideas, which is perfectly okay. But at some point, if you had launched a year ago, the 6 years lesson that you would have already had on what your market's actually asking for and the iterations you can make to the product are just invaluable. One way to take a step back, if you go Reddit's at the very, very start of your idea generation and launching an MVP, you're in market and you've launched, and yes, it won't be a perfect product, but you will, develop and establish whilst you're, version 2, version 3. A way in the middle is actually not pre-sales. A lot of people try and do this pre-sale thing, and pre-sales I would move away from and move towards more like Kickstarter stuff. If you're going to do a pre-sale campaign, I think in Kickstarter there is this mindset that things are going to take time.
And also I think anyone buying into a Kickstarter knows that potentially this product may never.
Yeah, and you have somewhat protection. You have somewhat of a protection as a buyer by doing it via Kickstarter.
Yeah,
right?
and you are a certain type of buyer who's buying.
You're willing to invest into an idea very early for various benefits.
Yeah.
Where people get wrong is where they do this pre-sale and pre-launch and actually sell a collection before they've even placed the order for the collection. And one example of quite a large social media influencer that we have worked with, we weren't doing the product, so caveat, it wasn't us doing the product, who actually did a pre-launch campaign, sold a whole bunch of products that they had never actually ordered, and then placed the order. And the reason they did that was to ascertain how many units they should be ordering, right? But it then actually took originally 4 months for the production run, for the actual goods to be made, And at the end of that production run, none of the goods were actually usable. They were all faulty. And so instead of doing the wrong thing and sending faulty goods to their customers, they simply said, hey, we need another 4 months. Shit hit the fan, right? You're talking about 8 months of people who've spent a whole bunch of money with you, who are now waiting for products. And as soon as you get your first 5 or 10 people asking for refunds in the comment sections of your profile, you're going to start an avalanche of people calling you a scam, calling you an issue. So we don't want to do that, right? So you've got your your Kickstarter. Thank you, guys. I don't know where my head went to. You got your Kickstarter campaign. You've got your pre-launch, which we do not recommend whatsoever. And so there is one step before that, which is actually building a coming soon page. We like to use the password page of Shopify, where you build a coming soon page. You're not just putting like under construction, give me your email address. You're building out a substantial, multi-section, proper converting coming soon page that says, this is who we are, this is what we're trying to solve, this is why we're trying to solve it. And you can entice people to join early. And simply by driving traffic, whether that's through organic content to that coming soon page, or through going back to Reddit and saying, hey, I'm building something that's going to solve these problems that we're all talking about, come and check it out on my coming soon page, and you're driving traffic organically to the coming soon page, you can start to capture people's interest and email addresses. And you can actually gauge from the number of email addresses that you're capturing how good your product is or how good your marketing is, right? Before you order any product. And you can wait until you get a substantial, sizable audience, either followers or email addresses, ideally both, but email addresses I would prioritize over and above followers. How many email addresses have you captured whilst you're developing the prototypes, whilst you're sampling, whilst you're still moving forward with the product? So because you can actually document and share that journey as well with the people who are subscribed to your email list. And that is probably one of the best ways I've seen in validating the product. In fact, it's actually what we do and teach people within our brand launch system.
I think that's a really great way of doing it. I think even like you mentioned, taking those subscribers on the journey, like I think surveying and actually, posting or emailing that base that are interested in the overall concept with kind of regular updates or questions that you have as you're building the brand is a really interesting way of getting them quite engaged in the product, feeling like they are a part of this development process, and really just asking them like, do you like such and such? And you will get some honest feedback from people that are not your family and friends, that are actual people that are going to buy your product. And it can just really save you time on the whole testing phase if we are asking these kind of questions up front. Also, I just want to say that sometimes, you're going to get a whole mixed bag of feedback. So it's kind of, you take it with a grain of salt. Like you need to be able to digest all of this feedback to understand, okay, is this still in line with my vision? Because, you might be making a water bottle and everyone's replying saying they want Tupperware. Obviously, that's outside of the vision. We're going back to the water bottle. But, when we're talking about, do I want a straw or a screw top, for example, that's where we can start to take that feedback on board and really just seeing what kind of feedback people are coming back with.
The other concept from what you've said there is oftentimes we think about validating the product, but we also, as part of that product validation process, by doing these things that we're talking about, you're actually validating your marketing ideas. If you're trying to market a water bottle and you're getting a ton of feedback from Tupperware, you're speaking to the wrong people. Or you need to be listening to them and asking them better questions, or changing your copy, or you're attracting the wrong people. There's something going on there.
Something's wrong if they're asking for Tupperware.
Again, you need to be going, do I actually need to be pivoting and creating Tupperware, which is okay, sometimes that happens? Do I need to be sticking to my original vision and creating my water bottle, but update the way I'm marketing myself to actually attract people who want a water bottle, right? So you're validating two sets of different elements. You're validating the marketing and branding components, and then you're also validating your product and product creation components. Surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, is also why we have the marketing and product creation as two separate tracks that go hand in hand inside that brand, inside our brand launch system. So it's really...
there is method to our madness.
There sure is.
Click here for your next step. One more time.
Yeah, do it one more time.
Click here for your next step.
Yeah, cool.
No, should I do it slower? Am I a little bit too enthusiastic?
Do it really slowly.
Click here.
Then I can speed it up.
Click right here for your next step.